Good morning. This is Pastor Claude Nickerson, and welcome to a special broadcast to everyone in the United States and abroad, especially all citizens of the United States of America. It is my privilege to give you this special ceremony at Freedom Grove Park in Urbana, Ohio, 2 p.m. on September 11th, 2011. The dedication of the 9/11 Twin Tower beam. A special ceremony I will never forget, and the patriotism of many Champaign County people who were able to make this wonderful event. I want to thank the citizens of Champaign County for making this possible, Urbana Rotary, and all the folks who made this possible. The speakers such as Champaign County Judge Roger Wilson and the Honorable Roger Wilson, and retired Congressman Honorable Dave Hobson, and special speakers, forgive me, who will be introduced as you hear, will give the story about how their daughter died in the second crash at the Twin Towers in New York City on September 11th, 2001. I will never forget that day, and I'm sure you remember what you were doing as well. I just was stunned. I was moving that day to Fairborn, Ohio. I stopped in at a McDonald's about 9 o'clock, and someone yelled out to me on the staff, "Did you hear? Did you hear?" And I said, "No. What happened?" She says, "The Twin Towers have been bombed." I said, "What?" In New York City, she said. And I said, "What?" And then shortly around that time, I heard the Pentagon had been bombed. And so we were all packed up to move to my new apartment in Fairborn. We went on 70 and tried to get on I-670, and it was closed. So we had to go down Route 4, down to Chambersburg Road, along the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base border. And as we were coming along the fence of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, there were all these painted blue cans against the fence. And as we passed one gate, it was really full of these blue painted trash cans, metal trash cans. I'd never seen anything like it. And there were armed soldiers at that gate. And you could see the cherry pickers on the other side of the road of radio stations and TV stations such as WHIO and WDTN and Fox 45, pointing their cameras from an angle straight toward the ground, angled toward the ground of the base, so they could get a view of what possibly is going on at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which was completely at a shutdown. No one could get in, no one could get out. And as I passed, I saw these three civilian cars, tinted glass. I figured they were very important people. I'll never forget that. And we finally got to our place and moved in. Wright State I was going back to school for some courses, and Wright State was closed for the next day because of what happened on September 11th, 2001. I'll never forget that. I moved, I realized that the place where I lived, the expense was too much to keep as an apartment, and so I moved to this. In the apartment around there, to get anything cheaper, I had to sacrifice space. So I thought, um, but I found something even bigger for less, and it was a miracle. And I was ready to move into that place, and guess what the year was and the date? September 11th, 2002. Well, what happened was they we were moving our things, ready to move in, and then we were told by the landlady that my apartment was involved in a fire, and so they had to repaint my apartment, but they also gave me new carpet and brand new kitchen appliances, a brand new bathtub, a brand new bathroom. Everything was fixed up. Everything was painted. It was like they had just built this new apartment. Before I knew that, I gave thanks to the gospel, God, to thank Him for what He did at the cross for my sins. Before I moved in, before I even knew I was going to get this place, and God found me an apartment that was almost twice the size of my other apartment, and $100 or $200 less. That was God. And it was right along the fence of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So I was in the military National Guard, so I could go exercise and stuff, and swim and stuff, and that was great. Well, anyways, I thank God for that. But now, without further ado, here is the Twin Tower beam dedication at Freedom Grove Park in Urbana, Ohio. I hope you'll enjoy this as I have. I will show you the beam before they made the dedication, before they covered it up, so that you'll see it at the same time as the ceremony is going on. I'll have 2 screens. I'll try to do that. And I hope that you will enjoy, as I have enjoyed, this movie. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you, be gracious upon you. Lift up His counts upon thee, and give thee peace. And I also, before, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, Amen. I also want to give thanks to our men and women in our armed forces for the bravery they've shown in Iraq and Afghanistan. And God bless the heroes at the Twin Towers, 9/11 Twin Towers in New York City on 2001, September 11th, 2001. Bless the firemen and police who were very brave, and all those who tried to comfort those in need, and bless those citizens who helped other citizens survive. And we do, our condolences go out to all the families who lost loved ones at the Twin Towers, at the Pentagon, and also the brave people, the survivors of the brave people of the crash at Shanksville, Flight 93. You can lift your heads high out of the terrible these three tragedies, which was an act of war. You can lift your head up high and be happy that the bravery that our citizens bestowed and witnessed us to encourage us to be brave for the years to come, even to this day. I'm going to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go into this. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you.
How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Whoever those 6 people are, the 4 port carriers and the 2 Ripcord Creek people, move back to the back towards where that star's at, and there's a
one of those very few worldwide memorial ceremony. After the terrible events of September 11, 2001, the Urbana Rotary Club conceived the idea of a rendition of America the Beautiful. There are 4 verses, each has its special meaning. The words of the 3rd verse go like this: "O beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine." This place here is a place to recognize those who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. On September 11, 2002, the 6 acres here where Freedom Grove is located were leased by the county commissioners to the Urbana Rotary Club. The cost, $1 a year for 50 years. The completion of this grove is to be a multi-year project. The 6 acres where we are now was a borrow pit for the shopping center construction behind us, where the county administrative offices are now located. The good earth and fill was removed, and the pit became a depository for concrete slabs and other construction refuse. How prophetic that it should be resurrected and transformed into a haven for hope, faith, and honor. The original design for this grove centered on 10 individual monuments at the south end of the grove, marking the 10 defining conflicts in American history. The bicentennial bell over on the west side also found a proper bell tower home as part of the design of Freedom Grove. There are now in the Freedom Grove several key areas, a 1.5-mile pathway to walk, and a plaza of engraved bricks where you can dedicate a brick to a loved one. This is a place here of hope, of faith, of remembrance, and honor. All of these virtues remain significant for us in this nation, even after all of the conflicts that are memorialized here. This grove is a community-wide collaboration coordinated by the Urbana Rotary Club. The outpouring of support from the entire area has been heartfelt and ever so significant. Such generosity and thoughtfulness reflects the enormity of the impact of events such as September 11, 2001. County Prosecutor Nick Salvaggio learned of the availability of artifacts for local community permanent display. His extensive and relentless efforts led to the acquisition of this artifact, and the artifact was incorporated into the Freedom Grove concept. Not only material evidence of an event which is horrific, it is also an awe-inspiring and thought-provoking symbol which brings us all to the brink of reality. The program that you have today is a living document. Please take time to read it and learn more about the history of Freedom Grove and the many people and organizations that have been directly involved in its development to date. The story is told of a man in North Carolina who went to the beach every day and created sand images that were of significance to him. Many were of a religious nature. He would draw the image of Jesus in the sand, and another day he would draw a cross, and another day he would recreate the Last Supper. Each day he returned to craft another sand image, only to see the tide wash the image away. The tides of time will not soon erase this Freedom Grove and the memorials that are placed here. From the ashes of destruction, hope arises to give us all strength. The symbols of hope are seen nationwide, in the tower being built in New York City, the artifacts being memorialized around the world, just like here in Freedom Grove. Whenever you seek time to reflect and to gather strength, Freedom Grove is a fitting place to come. This Freedom Grove is a proud symbol of our heritage and a constant reminder of the promise of the future. This dedication ceremony deserves a person of genuine significance to be the keynote speaker. David Hobson is that person. Representative Hobson and I have known each other since we were classmates in law school a few years ago. David Hobson used his legal education to become a person of national and international significance. He spent 18 years representing the Ohio 7th Congressional District from January 1991 to December 2008. During his service, Hobson attracted new business through bringing leaders from the public and private sectors together with the idea to promote job creation and develop the economy. Hobson served as chair of the Military Construction Appropriations Subcommittee and the Energy Water Development Appropriations Subcommittee. His leadership of those subcommittees led to the installation of sound financial management practices at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Energy. He currently resides in Springfield, Ohio with his wife, Carolyn. His support for the Springfield Air National Guard and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base are legendary. David was a part of the national government scene in 2001. His position of authority and knowledge gave him an opportunity to know and understand the effects of September 2001. He saw all of the changes that have come to pass in this country, and he recognizes all of the key elements of our life that remain the same. All of these took place while this congressman was involved in planning and acting for the greater good of our country. David was to be joined here today by Rotarian Barbara Skank. She's a business colleague of David's from Beaver Creek. Barbara's perspective on September 11, 2001 is directly shaped by the loss of her only brother and the destruction of Tower 2. A key element of her message was to be how the family responded to this tragedy. I contacted her this weekend and discussed the situation. She indicated that when she had agreed to come, she thought that she could do it. But the enormity of the impact has taken such a toll on her that it's too fresh in her mind to speak publicly about it today. She extends her regrets to all of us and asks for your understanding in her absence today. So now we present the keynote speaker, retired Congressman David Hobson.
Good afternoon. I
want to thank Roger and Mike for calling me some months ago and asking if I would be here. And I said, with honor, I would be here. This is a great community. I love serving this community and the greater community. And therefore, I'd like to impart a few comments to you about what happened, what I observed, and end with where we are today. On that morning, I was at my office in Washington, and someone said to me, a plane just flew in to one of the towers in New York. And like most people, I thought, well, that's a tragic accident. Somebody made a mistake. And then I walked out of my office down the hall, and as I walked down the hall, a TV was open and people were, the door was open, the TV was on, and another plane hit. And then we knew it wasn't an accident. I kept on going and went over the Capitol. That time, lots of people were in the Capitol. No one thought anything about being in the Capitol at that point. Then we heard the words, get out of the Capitol. So we went back to our offices. We went to our offices, and the next thing I saw was smoke coming out of the Pentagon. Then they said, get out again. But there was no plan. We didn't know where to go. Nobody knew. But we did get out. And we got away from the building because we knew that there was another plane coming, and they didn't know whether it was going to hit the White House or it was going to hit the Capitol building. But there were no plans. There was very little security. We hadn't had to have any. So we all dispersed. And we couldn't drive our cars home. People couldn't get out. They had to ride the metro. Fortunately, the metro was still open, and people could move. That was that day. Subsequent to that, I went to New York. I was on Defense Appropriations at that time, and chairman of military construction. And we flew up to New York, and we took a helicopter from the airport out to a tugboat. We got on a tugboat and went down the river and got off and went into Ground Zero. And Ground Zero was still a mess. Stuff was everywhere. People were moving everywhere. We talked to people who were doing the work. We smelled the smells. We didn't wear any masks. We didn't have any masks. Some people wore some simple masks, but there was not much of that going on. Our biggest problem at that point was trying to find people alive, trying to care for the trauma of the people who were doing the work in that area. We didn't have enough psychiatrists, psychologists to talk to these people, and they were under great stress. So that was one of the things we did. They didn't let us stay too long, but we saw the enormity. Went back to Washington. The next day or so, I went into the Pentagon. And I was one of the few that could get into the Pentagon at that point because I was chairman of military construction, and the Pentagon's a military building. So I went down into the bowels of the Pentagon. And I walked up to the areas and into parts of the areas that I could get into. There was still water. There was still stuff all over, airplane parts, the debris that you can see. A very difficult situation to view and to go into. One friend of mine, the highest ranking person killed in that was a one-star general, General Bond. He was next to him in another office was another general who fortunately had left his office and gone somewhere else in the Pentagon. And he's alive today and just retired as the head of the Corps of Engineers. But had he been there sitting at his desk, he wouldn't have had the rest of his life. we had remodeled and put in smoke detectors and fire doors. Hard to imagine. Unfortunately, if the plane had hit, it hit in that area, or the damage would have been even worse. Another big problem we found out that we didn't know is that fire trucks couldn't get through the openings to get inside the Pentagon. Because when they were built, fire trucks were a lot smaller than they are today. And nobody thought about a tragedy like this happening, that they would have to get fire trucks inside. That's been changed, tragically, but late. A monument you might want to see sometime if you go to Washington is to go and see the one at the Pentagon. It's truly moving, also as the other monuments are. From that day on, security in Washington dramatically changed. Security in this country changed. And how much it changed, I have to tell you, I came home one time to Springfield, and my wife and myself went down to the Performing Arts Center in Springfield, and I started getting nervous as I walked around it, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Why was I reacting this way? Well, I had just come home from D.C., and there was security everywhere in D.C., and I went down there, and there wasn't any security. But I was so accustomed that I became concerned where I went. I have been changed in how I looked at security. And I can tell you today, it's changed me to this day. As I go places, I look. 9/11 changed how I look at things every day. I don't like that, but that's a fact of life, and that's a fact of life of where we are today. That attack on our society, and I mean our society, we all lost loved ones there. Barbara lost a loved one. Barbara is my business associate, but her brother lived across the hall from my daughter at Ohio Wesleyan. It's almost fate that we wound up in business together because her father was a fraternity brother of mine a few years before me at Ohio Wesleyan. So it's just unreal, and it's difficult today for many families to talk about this. You're going to hear today from a lovely family about their part in this tragedy. It's just something that has changed our world. It's changed how we live. But I think that's a challenge for us in the future. What we need to do as a society is to figure out a way to protect ourselves, but to also understand, because I don't yet, I truly don't understand how people can hate so much that they would do the dastardly acts that happened that day and some days since, and the way that they fight in Afghanistan and Iraq today. And I've been to both places a number of times, and it's very difficult. But I think we as a society need to find a way to better understand and better prepare to make sure that this never happens again. And we've been very fortunate excuse me, that we haven't had any type of situation to this magnitude or even close since. And that is our solemn promise to those people that gave their lives, that have given their lives, that we're not going to let that happen again. I'm so proud of this community to do what you're doing here as a community. This is what these brave people gave their lives for. That we can continue our lives and that we can do things together for the good of everybody. This community should be so proud of itself and what it's giving. It's not just taking, it's giving. That's what's important in life, I believe. It's not just to be a taker, but to give to others. What you're doing here today speaks so well for you and this community, but also for who you are and what this country is all about. Let's all continue to work together. Let's all stand up for America. God bless America.
All right. Which includes Rotarian co-chairs Don Bauer and Terry Howe, who have given sacrificially in their contributions of time, leadership, insight, and provision, as well as committee member Nick Salvaggio, whose foresight and quick action made this dedication possible.
Great.
Contributing expertise in all the disciplines required to make it happen, from marketing to acquisition of materials to putting boots in the ground and flags in the air, are committee members Dr. Francis Hazard, David Martin, Harry Osborne, Greg Peters, Jennifer Tullifson, Alan Webster, Harold Carr, Mike Major, and Fred and Kathy Main. I'm humbled to be included as a member of the committee myself. I must also, in addition, recognize the entire Urbana Rotary Club, who have been with us every step of the way, opening doors and making the way straight. I think you will agree with me that much has been accomplished in a very short time. It's been my pleasure to work with such dedicated individuals and to know that this level of integrity, competence, unity, and commitment still exist right here in America in Champaign County. You know, the Freedom Grove Committee, we made some big promises on a national level on behalf of our entire community about how we would honor and what we would do if given the opportunity. We knew that our belief in our community was well-founded. We've been overwhelmed by community support and business support, from the design of the memorial to transportation of the beam, from excavating of the grounds to fabricating a base for the steel beam and the steel stars for the memorial, to pouring concrete and gravel, and many have come forward to donate or discount services and materials in the spirit of honor and remembrance of those who perished on 9/11 and those families who continue to fight the war on terror. These donors gave willingly from their businesses and personal resources to see this worthwhile project through to completion. And I'm going to read some of those names. Because of the work of aesthetic finishers, we're able to have that for ourselves. Don and Jane Bauer just gave and gave and gave, and Bryce Hill Concrete, Debbie Hill, all this concrete you see here, and Burton's Landscaping, and Champaign Rental just gave us whatever we needed, any type of equipment, anytime we needed it. Dale Circle Family Farms and the Rick Cole family, they gave and straw and materials and just, again, whatever we needed. Evans Electric, the family of Ed Evans, you know, with the power requirements. The Grimes Foundation and the Heritage Cooperative they basically gave us money so we could keep going. Terry and Jackie Howell, I can't tell you how much work Terry Howell has done out here on his own. Jeff Martin Concrete and Jeff Martin both have given. Joe Rees Welding, and I want to tell you a little story about Joe Rees Welding. The time was coming that the monument was about to be dedicated, and we went from extreme heat to rain. The time was growing short, and the day came that we needed to get the monument up, and so that we could finish some of the rest of the work around it. The call was put out to Joe Rees Welding, who had already built the base for us and everything, and Joe's family was leaving on vacation. And Joe said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll move the vacation. And we said, well, Joe, you don't really have to do that, but is there something we could do? And he says, yes, there is. I'll tell you what we'll do. My men and I will show up tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn. And the following morning, at the crack of dawn, they were here. They weren't sleepy and tired. They were fully at attention, and they brought their entire family. And they put this monument up because of what they believe, and they held their vacation up by a few hours so that they could come, and they were willing to do it, and they were happy to do it, and they were honored to do it. And that's what we've run into with everybody in here that's given. They're honored to do it. Lee Lavoie and his family came out here and spent 3 weeks building these ripples and excavation of the grounds. Lincoln Professional Services, I know that guy. He put in a little bit. M&K Engineering, Mike and Kathy Bowe with drawings and Maine's Towing. Fred, Kathy, Maine went clear to New York, painted their own truck, and made it special so that this would be special because they realized what's at stake here. Mike Major. What do you say about Mike Major? See the sculpture, all of the work that's here. Mike and Sarah. McKeever Excavating brought in equipment and helped. Remington Steel with Roy Cole and Harry Osborne. When we decided it was time to make the stars, what one didn't give, the other one did. They saw to it that we had these stars at a fraction of the cost. Robert Rothschild's farms. See all these flags? Robert Rothschild's farm bought the flags. Dan Rooney family and the Leah Schiffer family made the way straight for us by helping us out. Spriggs Landscaping with Denny Spriggs. The People's Savings Bank provided us with these beautiful programs that we have. Yoder Concrete, Jeff and Roberta Yoder. They were out here with their family. I don't know if you remember how hot it was this year. I certainly do, and I know that they do. They were out here and they did the work. In addition to these major donors, we have a wealth of private donors who've given not only to the 9/11 Memorial Project, but also to Freedom Grove as a whole, buying bricks and stones and benches and trees and everything you see here. And by those contributions, making it possible that this park of remembrance could be completed to this point at a fraction of the normal cost and in record time. But how do you thank this many people? It was decided by the board that we could not thank anyone unless we thanked everyone. So, with the help of the Urbana Daily Citizen, a special World Trade Center keepsake edition was created, commemorating this historic project for posterity. Please join me in giving a big thank you to these kind folks who've made it all possible. We now proceed to the unveiling of the World Trade Center monument. Champaign County artist Mike Major, who has created sculptures for public and private collections across the country, designed and helped build our memorial. He will give us some insight into the artist's vision. In addition, the Reich Trio will perform America the Beautiful as members and representatives of the Champaign County emergency responders remove the veil. Please welcome artist Mike Major, the Reich Trio, and the Champaign County emergency responders.
Good afternoon. The World Trade Center beam and what it represents inspired this entire monument. So the first step in the design was to really understand what it signifies. A lot of thought was given that, a lot of discussion. And what will it mean 50 years from now, this monument standing here? The reaction of our committee, who picked up the beam in New York, as they stayed in touch by cell phone, digital images, and comments, was an expression that was very powerful about what that monument, what this beam, this artifact means. They felt, they saw, they shared. There was a spiritual updraft as they transported the beam back across the states to Ohio, to Urbana. The resulting approach was for simplicity to reign, that nothing would stand higher than the artifact itself. But we had to raise that artifact. We built this mound in the center. We were going to make the beam most prominent. So there are 5 elements to this monument. We'll start at the outside. You notice that there are corner markers made of limestone at each corner of what would be the Trade Center, or one of the Trade Center buildings. So they're 208 feet apart. Within this footprint for both buildings, it's only only an acre, and to a lot of us in this wide open country, it doesn't seem like a very large building. I've heard that comment several times. But imagine 110 acres, which is the size of one building, that is the office space. All of that came crashing down in this spot, in a spot this size. 2 buildings would equal 220 acres of destruction, plus 2 aircraft. You'll notice that there is no wall of hatred or indifference around this space. It's accessible. Freedom is vulnerable. The ripples are the next element in. They represent the motion, the impact, and the emotion of the tragedy. But it cuts both ways. They also represent the ripple effect of all of our actions. Everything we say, everything we do. When we pray, there's no telling how far ripples travel, how much they can inspire. The circle here under the beam represents the globe. It represents human relationships. It represents the circle of life. The stars were inspired by the American flag, and they represent the Twin Towers. They also represent the spirit of ingenuity. They're light. It's a bright tomorrow. They reflect the sun. And finally, the beam symbolizes our journey together. This beam is twisted. This beam is tormented. It has been through a horrific tragedy. It now represents our spirit, our will to embrace faith, hope, and freedom. It lies down no more. It does not lean over. It stands tall with America. May love and freedom reign.
thank you for the right trio, the Champaign County first responders. As you can see, our first responders been tied up a little bit while we're out here today dedicating this thing. Been going by a couple of times. When they told me that this honor guard was coming up, they said, well, you know, not all of them are going to be in dress uniform because we're working today. And there's a lady up here with a pair of scissors stuck in the side of her pants. You can tell that they are ready to go, just like all first responders, at a moment's notice. Please, let's give them a nice round of applause. At this time, I would like to introduce to you John and Beverly Titus, parents of Alicia Nicole Titus, who was a United Airlines flight attendant. Please welcome them.
Moments like these over the past 10 years where I wish I'd paid more attention in speech class, but I'm honored to be here with you today. I'm especially pleased that with the Urbana community that they have chosen to pay such a lasting tribute to my daughter, Alicia, who died 10 years ago today. What a wonderful vision. Our Rotary Club, all the volunteers and laborers who work so hard to make this happen. The thoughtful and creative design by Mike Majors with special help from his daughter Sarah gives life and meaning to this mangled piece of steel, a symbol of death and destruction that has now been transformed into a symbol of hope as we reflect back and learn from that day. Although I am honored to be here with you for this special dedication, I would rather not be called to stand in front of you for the reasons I am here. On that morning, I drove down the North Territorial Road on my way to work at Schoolcraft College. At the time, I lived in Michigan, but my home has always been here in Urbana area and in Logan County. My children grew up in Champaign County, and Alicia graduated she attended Urbana schools, went to Graham and graduated from there. Attended Urbana University for a short while and graduated from Miami University. And on that morning, as I was driving down North Territorial Road, it's a tree-lined, beautiful road, I remember thinking, looking at the clear blue sky and thinking, what a gorgeous day this is. And the reading from Psalms 118 came to me. This is a day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And that's the feeling I had in my heart. So when I got to work, I had to lead the staff meeting. And I was hectically preparing and was leading the meeting when my coworker came in, turned on the TV and said something about a plane striking one of the World Trade Center towers. She turned it on just in time that I could witness my daughter's murder. The second plane had hit the South Tower that crashed into a fiery ball that we've all seen over and over and over again. On my morning run this morning, I was in the woods and just feeling the joy of life and the peace and harmony. When I broke down into tears, it reminded me of the early days when I was heavy in grief. Someone asked me a while back, when did the sadness go away? I said, the sadness doesn't go away. It'll never go away. I honor that sadness because it's the depth of my sorrow and sadness is the height of my joy and love that I had for my daughter. I've learned how to feel joy once again, but the sadness will always be with me, and I'm okay with that. And I do understand why the young lady that lost her brother couldn't be here. I would rather not. I would have preferred to just stay at home and be with my loved ones or go for a picnic. do something else. Losing a loved one to political violence, especially your child, with all the media attention and the eyes of the world upon us, has been extremely difficult, incredibly painful, and utterly exasperating at times. Losing Alicia, a beautiful young woman who inspired hope for a world in which we can all just get along with one another, has been a long and arduous journey filled with sadness, forlorn, desolation, and despair. This has been compounded by 10 years of war as a result of the attack that took our daughter. Someday I hope that we'll look back on how we attempt to resolve conflict in this world of ours, and we'll be appalled. Someday we will realize that all human beings and all of life are deeply connected with one another, much like the cells of a body. Someday we will learn to live in a world that engenders love and understanding, God willing. In my writings after Alicia's murder, oftentimes through the tears of my sadness and pain, I would stop and pray. I would humble myself before God and search for the light of truth and understanding. I envisioned what it might be like in a heaven community, a place where Alicia now resided, a place where love for one another was made manifest. And through the cloud of confusion and the fog of war that raged within and around me, I was able to see clearly what God intends for us. God's providence is always, I repeat, always, willing us to our highest and best person we can be. His love and wisdom is given freely to us, unconditionally and continuously. So how is it that we can twist and pervert this incredible love into something so disparaging, so violent and hurtful? How is it we can be so short-sighted and hateful and destructive with other human beings and somehow rationalize it? Many times out of frustration at the conditions in our world, I would conclude that God must indeed be very patient with us all as we fail to learn from our past and continue to make the same mistakes over and over. Alicia was a gifted, astute, loving, compassionate, and wise young lady. She felt love in her heart for everyone she met and knew how to bring that goodness in the other to the light of day. I had a dream right after she was murdered. In the dream, Alicia and I were together, laughing, talking, and basking in the glory of the moment in the beautiful sunny day. It was near Wright State University where I got my master's degree. All of a sudden, a huge airplane came overhead 50 feet above us and crashed into a tall building nearby. Alicia and I were stunned. We ran as fast as we could to the site of the crash and found our way to the top of the building, a flat roof with a stairwell that went down into the building. From the stairwell, smoke was billowing out, and the screams and the moans of the people could be heard below. Without a hesitation, Alicia ran to the stairwell, and I followed. She immediately began descending the stairs and disappeared into the smoke and destruction. I went 4 or 5 steps down the stairs. In a few moments, Alicia came back up the stairs, followed by hundreds of people, all with dazed and confused looks on their faces. She led them from this burning inferno into the light of day and beyond. I believe this was the strength of her soul and the gift she was able to give on that dreadful day that emerged from her incredible, compassionate, and loving soul. And I know in my heart this had deep implications for me as well. Alicia is only one of the beautiful souls who died on that tragic day 10 years ago. I have heard similar stories from loved ones of others who also died that day. We lost some wonderful people on that horrific day, loving souls who were doing their part to make this world a better place. When we think about human heartbreak of the day, we can't blame God. This was the evil of the ego mind chooses over good. After something so tragic and horrendous, we must strive to understand the underlying conditions that perpetuate such hatred and violence toward one another. The battle that rages within us and around us also rages within. The struggle between good and evil is a battle that each of us must fight. But we must search for our higher self that comes from God, from a place of wisdom, understanding, love, and compassion. When we are called to action, to right a wrong, we must not allow ourselves to be pulled into the mire and confusion. Dark side of the soul for the temptation is great. If we truly are to follow God's will for us, we must come from a place of light and love, especially when we are called to bring about justice when an injustice has been done to us. I am here today speaking to you as a grieving father who has had a glimpse of understanding and a vision of hope for our children, our country, and our world. I only want to do all that I can to make this world a better place for my grandchildren. One of them is up here on the stage with us today, and their children, so that we don't have to experience the excruciating pain of losing a child the way I have. I am fully committed to this cause, and if we all committed ourselves to this end, we could make it happen. In closing, I would like to share a verse from Ecclesiastes entitled A Time for Everything. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. My friends, after 10 years of pain and suffering, 10 years of incredible sacrifice by so many, and 10 years of war, it is time to heal, a time for rebirth, a time to laugh and dance, a time to mend, a time to reflect, and a time to love. It is a time for peace. As you leave today, feel the feelings that this day brings forth. Honor them and use them to grow your own love and compassion for one another. This is the wisdom that comes out of a broken heart. This is God's incredible gift to us that emerges like a phoenix rising from the ashes of Shanksville, the Pentagon, and Ground Zero. I resisted getting on Facebook until just recently. I guess I'm more of a person-to-person, direct contact kind of guy. But this morning I was given a beautiful gift on Facebook, and I would like to share it with you. Thinking of the Titus family, no words can soothe the pain. Perhaps a gentle breeze, the warmth of the sun, or an unexpected scribbled note that had long been forgotten will help to know that Alicia is not gone, just fulfilling her life of higher usefulness. Our pain endures for a night, but the joy cometh in the morning. I haven't been to conventions since it was in Urbana back in 1990. Alicia and I were hula girls. She left a lasting impression on me that summer. A few simple words have stayed with me and perhaps helped me more than anyone would ever know. I basically grew up with Alicia. I saw her every summer at camp or convention, but the last one left a lasting impression. Life hasn't allowed for me to attend camps or conventions since high school. My own selfish anger at God for taking my mother helped keep me away. I didn't know about Alicia until about 5 or 6 years ago. Upon mending relations with my father, the topic came up. I was shocked. You see, my teenage years were very hard. I struggled with an eating disorder and depression. Alicia took the time to help me with my hair and makeup and whispered, "Smile, you are beautiful, both inside and out. Never forget." It may sound silly, there was a special way that Alicia made a person feel like they were the most important person in the world when she was with them. I would love to give the entire Titus family a big hug. Katie. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being here today, for helping us dedicate this monument. May you go in peace. God bless you all. My wife Bev will now come talk.
I'd like to give a very special thanks to everyone who made this possible, all the love, the energy, the resources, and the community that's created this memorial place. Thanks to each and every one of you for being here, for being present with us to remember Alicia, Doug Cherry, and all of those who died, all who were injured and wounded in some way on September 11th, 2001. I wanted to share for a moment what it was like on September 11th, 2001. I'd come home early in the morning from bringing my grandson back to Ohio. I went to bed and woke up by this energy, this voice that kept calling me and telling me to get up. And I remembered saying, as if I was speaking to somebody, I just wanted to lay there and sleep for just a little bit longer. And this energy and voice literally pulled me out of bed. And I said, okay, I'm getting up. And I got up, turned the TV on, which I rarely did, went and made coffee, sat back down just in time to see Alicia's plane at the tower. And I remember thinking that I was watching some horrible horror film that couldn't be real. I sat there in disbelief. And I never allowed the thought to enter my mind that Alicia may actually be on one of those planes. And after a while, I got up to make a phone call to my son. It was his birthday. I called Montana and talked to his mother-in-law, and I said, you will not believe what's happening there. Crashing planes in the World Trade Center towers, and talked to her for a few minutes and then said I would just call Zach back because he wasn't up yet, and I'd wish him a happy birthday later. But it was that voice that awakened me in the morning that I thought was Alicia's. Wanting me to be present with her in the only way I could, to witness what was happening. The fabric of my being torn apart, and the pieces unrecognizable. My life as I knew it was over. But as we come together today, from all walks of life, representing different religions, economic backgrounds, and a rainbow of color of humanity, as we stand on this common ground, and we join together on this sacred place, which connects us to our humanness. It is my hope that this very, very special place become a space where we can meditate, reflect, pray and remember that connection that we all share, that thread that weaves together the fabric of our lives, that runs through each of our hearts, where we carry our pain, our grief, our sorrow, our compassion, love, understanding, joy, dreams, and hope. May our hearts carry us from this place, and may we hold in our hearts that thread that ties all of us together as human beings. In late September of 2001, we had to go to San Francisco, where Alicia had an apartment, and pack up all of her belongings, everything that was left for life. And on her bedstand, there was a book with special sayings and quotes, and it was earmarked. When I opened it up, it was the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. And I will end with that. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Thank you.
Thank you, John and Bev, and the entire Titus family for coming. At this time, please join me in welcoming Chief David Torcell of the Johnson St. Paris Joint Fire District, representing our...
I apologize for that echo. I could not get Chief Torcell. I was running down on batteries and I just could not replace them in time. We thank the Chief for coming out as well. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and may the Lord bless thee and keep thee. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee and to be gracious upon thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, in the one true Godhead. Hear, O Israel, the Lord God, the Lord is one.